The following show is a Pod Avenue production. You are cordially invited to have dinner with the King. Pull up a chair and join WWE Hall of Famer Jerry the King Lawler and Glenn Moore. Enjoy.
All right, back here at Jerry Lawler's Memphis Barbecue Company here in Cordova, Tennessee. Jerry was on his little vacation. First show we did last week, not sitting in front of a big plate of all this meat and side mac and cheese. I am not even full yet, so we have a whole full show of eating and talking. I'm Glenn Moore, joined here by my co-host, WWE Hall of Famer Jerry the King Lawler. Jerry, it's nice to be back here in Tennessee.
Glenn, it's great to have you back in Tennessee. And of course, like I said, I took a little trip this past week up to your hometown. I was up in Cleveland for the up there Sunday for the Indians game. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But yeah, it is nice to be back home, and we got a lot of things to talk about. You know what I'm really enjoying about the podcast? Of course, I enjoy the food here at the
Is it me?
Memphis Barbecue Company.
Me?
Is it me? Honestly, no, I do enjoy having you come down and run up this big tab every week. But no, I tell you what I really like is the, I guess the aftermath, so to speak. I love checking out Twitter and seeing all the people that take the time to go on Twitter and tell us how much they're enjoying the podcast. That really makes me feel good, and it makes me. It makes me put up with you, Glenn, is what it actually makes me do. It just, then I kind of look forward to doing these now a little more than I did at first, because it's, I'm on Twitter. If you're on Twitter, it's at Jerry Lawler, or we also have Dinner with the King, right?
Yeah, at Dinner with King is the
Dinner
show.
with King.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, we would encourage everyone, at least I would, I really enjoy it, if you'd go on Twitter and, just tell us what you think of the podcast. Tell us if you like it or what part of it you enjoyed or that sort of thing. But, I see that every week. And it was really cool last week to get a lot of people. There were a lot of people that went on there and said that they now have my songs downloaded, that they're playing them throughout the week and all that sort of stuff with, after the podcast we did on my music last week. That was kind of cool.
Yeah. A lot of people, talked about finding your music on YouTube, because I know a couple albums are on there, and people tweeting out photos of people having the vinyl and the cassette and CDs of your music.
Oh my gosh, did you see that? Of course, I think maybe Eddie Austin, who is religiously listens to our podcast, and I don't know, Eddie's such a great fan, and he's really a cool guy, and I think he probably has the largest, I'm not going to say Jerry Lawler collection of all, because there are a lot of people out there that have. Antonio Braxton, he has a huge collection. Of course, David Milligan, he has a huge collection of stuff. But Eddie, he may have the most complete music collection of anybody out there. I mean, I saw some of the stuff that he has, and I think he has just about everything. Like I said, I didn't even remember somebody put up a picture of a cassette.
Yeah.
I don't even remember. Do you even have anything that you could play a cassette on anymore?
I used to, on the radio, listen for my favorite songs. This is when I was like 13, 14, and then record them to a cassette and then play it back, like the radio version of the song, if I ever found. I mean, that was, I'm old enough to even remember that. So, I mean, I'm not, that young.
Well, I hear a song, of course, Lauren, huge country music fan and singer and all of that sort of stuff, and she plays a lot of Miranda Lambert. And Miranda Lambert has a song out called Automatic, and even she says the same thing in that song that you said, because she would listen to the country songs, like the top 40, and record it to cassette, because she couldn't, didn't have the money to buy it at a record store at that time. But yeah, that was just cool to see a picture of Jerry Lawler sings on a cassette. And then, so of course, they had all the different singles and the 2 albums, and then the CD. That's a lot of music out there.
And someone tweeted at the show, and they found your vinyl, the one that you're asking for. People had an extra copy to send it to you. I'm not sure we got any offers, but there is someone on eBay selling it for $300.
Yes, I saw that. And even the I don't know if you looked up close at the cover. Probably obviously a child had taken an ink pen and drawn over like around my eyes and around my mouth and all this stuff. So it's not a mint condition album by any means, but I mean the album itself may be, but the cover wasn't. But yeah, somebody's wanting $300 for that thing. But you know what? I told you how many of them I have. Zero. So it might be worth $300 to me to say I still have one of my old original albums.
Yeah, so it was crazy. But yeah, if anybody has that and listened to the last episode that we did all about Jerry's music, let us know. Tweet at us or at Jerry or at at Dinner with the King Twitter and let us know. And we'll
tweet out anyway because I'm addicted to Twitter now.
Oh yeah. Well, you speaking of Twitter, you tweeted out Puppies in Fort Myers.
It's so great. We were driving past the store in Fort Myers, and there's two great pet stores in Fort Myers. One's called Pet Kingdom, and the other one's called Pet Land. And they have, for some reason, both of these stores have this always an amazing assortment of puppies for sale. And as a matter of fact, the last two dogs that Lauren and I have, we got from Pet Kingdom there in Fort Myers. And but we were driving by Pet Land, and we were going to pull in, and all of a sudden I look on the sign on the door, and I told Lauren, I said, "Oh my gosh, look, you got to take my picture in front of this," because here was this huge sign that says, "Come play with our puppies." And I said, "How appropriate is that?" So I don't know. And so I did tweet it out, and then I followed up that tweet with the pic of me holding one of the most adorable little chihuahuas that I've ever seen. We really came within an inch of buying this little chihuahua, but we already have one that we just got down there not too long ago, and I just told Lauren, I said, "Oh please, we can't do two dogs." And I think she even, because now when we go on a trip, we go out quite often to the Comic Cons, to wrestling shows, and to our condo in Florida. Lauren's parents are gracious enough to keep to babysit our dog while we're gone, and I swear we called her dad, and he started. I can't use the words that he used on our podcast here, but he went off. I mean, he said, "If you guys buy another dog for me to keep," so I'm, he kind of changed our mind about getting that cute little puppy. But anyway, the second tweet was me holding the puppy, saying, not exactly what I was expecting, but she's really cute anyway. And the first tweet about playing, come play with our puppies, I mean, that thing got retweeted hundreds and hundreds of times, and it has almost 3,000 likes. So people really responded to that tweet well.
Yeah, people, even 20 years later from the Attitude Era, people know that's like your go-to tagline.
Puppies. Yeah. Oh, I think that was the most fun song that most people liked, the Puppies song last week from the podcast last week as well.
Yeah. So speaking of, I got some bad news, King.
Oh, you always have bad news. What is it? You got to spend the night here or something, or what?
No, well, it's more pertaining you.
Uh-oh.
Now,
what's that?
I play video games a lot of my life, and I love playing sports and playing the Indians and the Browns and the Cavs, and before the Cavs won a championship, the only way Cleveland could win a championship is in the video games I play. But another game I play a lot is WWE, 2K, back when. Even before, back it was like SmackDown versus Raw. But the one thing that I enjoyed was the commentary, because you were always on it, and JR was usually on it, and it was great to hear the commentary in the video game. Well, it's been, you've been on every single year for commentary, and they announced the commentary team for WWE 2K18, and it's going to be Michael Cole, Byron Saxton, and Corey Graves. No more Jerry Lawler. Did they tell you? Did they warn you? Like, hey, we're not going to have you on?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, of course. I mean, yeah, because you have to start. We would always start, say, like for the 2K17 game, we started that in probably January or February of that year, like 2017. So they started doing the commentary and the voiceovers for the 2018 game. Gosh, I'm sure back in February or so. And yeah, they told me that they were gonna make a change. I mean, basically, and I knew it was coming when I wasn't doing Raw or SmackDown anymore. That's just the way they do. They keep it up to date. The announcers on the video game are the announcers that people are used to hearing on either Monday or Tuesday night. So no, it was not unexpected or anything like that. And it was just that was the reason for it. I mean, and I knew it was coming when I got taken off of SmackDown. So it was, and quite a hit in the pocketbook too. That's what I really miss about it, because it paid really well. But I think we talked one time about it was a long, grueling process to go to down to Orlando and sit for. We would do 4-hour sessions at a time, for 2 days in a row, and that was literally almost every week. And so when you sit there for 4 hours and just read the same line over and over and over, and all you're doing maybe is changing, the name of the person, and then you doing the commentary, you never know how that line is going to be used in the game. I mean, it may be used in an NXT match, or it may be used in a WrestleMania match. So you have to try to have the same enthusiasm and the same energy every time you read every line in that the commentary script. So it was, and when you sit there for 4 straight hours and just do something like, oh my gosh, there's an F5 from Brock Lesnar, and then oh my gosh, a spear from Roman Reigns, and then you just keep going, one right after the other, and for 4 hours it becomes a long, grueling process. So my hat's off to especially Michael Cole. Michael could really multitask and can really multitask. I mean, Michael will be doing the, he'll be doing the commentary where you look up and you read your lines off a computer screen in front of you. But Michael will also have his laptop open, and he'll be writing somebody an email and on his laptop, and he'll be checking his phone for a Twitter message or something on his phone, and be doing the commentary lines at the same time. So it's a lot tougher than it looks, but Michael Cole can really handle all that really well. So like I said, my hat's off to all those guys, because it's a lot of hard work that goes into that. I think that the fans and the kids and people that are playing the game don't really and then of course that's the way it's supposed to be. You don't really appreciate what goes on behind the scenes to put one of these games together, but it's a lot of work, and a lot of thought and a lot of energy goes into putting these games together.
Now, do they tell you these lines, or do you come up with your own little, because you have your one-liners, you have your quips, your little insults?
Yeah, no, it was both. I mean, okay. They have a script. They would have a script for you every day. And then, and of course, what we would usually have to do is Michael would have a line, and then I would have a line, or either I would have a line and then Michael would have a line that followed mine, and they would be, go together, and then we'd start another line. And what I always hated was they would have a line like for Michael Cole that said, I can't even think of one off the top of my head, but that said, say for instance, if Michael, it said, the script would say, Michael Cole, and the line would say, what a vicious F5 from Brock Lesnar. And the next line would say, King, and my line would be ad lib. And so right. So I would have to just sit there. I mean, it was much easier to just read the lines rather than all of a sudden having to sit there and come up with, especially when you're not really seeing the match, you're not really seeing the action or whatever, so if Michael said, oh, what a vicious F5 from Brock Lesnar, and then it said ad lib for me, I would have to say something like, oh my gosh, he really planted him, or oh, that could be it. He's finished. Yeah. That sort of thing. But most of the time we actually have the lines written out.
The one that I'll miss the most, and it seems to be replayed in every game, I'm not sure if you re-record this line, but is he's putting those educated feet to good use.
Was that my line?
That was your line.
That was my.
What does that even mean?
I don't know. We used to have JR, I think, started that about the educated feet. I'm not really sure who that was about, and it may have been Daniel Bryan. With all the kicks and things.
No, this is way before. This is been going on for years, because I think I heard it actually in commentary, because he mentioned, I'm not sure if it was you or if it was JR, but he says, one foot went to Yale, one foot went to Stanford. It was something around. I've heard it, actually in real commentary. But that seems to be your go-to line every single year. That educated.
Well, that's not my fault. The game does that. The game decides what line is said and when. But I don't remember actually doing or actually saying that line. But I do see it on Twitter a lot, where people talk about the educated feet line. That maybe that's just you that talks about that, Glenn. I don't know.
No, people talk about it. Here's some good lines. Cody Rhodes asked for a dog for Christmas. His mom said, no, you will get a turkey like everyone else. Here's another one. Sheamus tried to enter a dirty contest. They said, no, sorry, no professionals.
Sheamus tried to enter what?
A dirty contest, and they said, sorry, no professionals.
A dirty?
Yeah, that's what this line. This is off a website. They're saying all your different.
Neither one of those are read correctly, I can assure you. I think it was Sheamus tried to enter an ugly contest.
Yeah, okay, dirty. Okay, yeah, I can see
and
it.
And they said, sorry, no professionals. It's not dirty, it was ugly. And then the other one about the one about Cody Rhodes was, it was like for Thanksgiving or Christmas dinner or something, say, can I have a puppy for Christmas? She said, no, you'll have turkey like everybody else or something. I don't know. But the one about the dirty, that was read wrong.
The Big Show's house is so big, his cereal bowl needs a lifeguard.
Yeah, that's probably in there somewhere. I said another one with his bathtub has stretch marks or something. No, I think that was in there too.
But yeah, so no more Jerry Lawler. Are they going to have you do like anything for the game? I mean, Marcus Stevenson, who is a follower of mine on Twitter, he's from Ohio. He actually works for WWE 2K, and we sent a tweet out, I'm saying, hey, man, you got to get Jerry back in the game. And he says he sent a memo or an email to the people the powers that be. So maybe you'll be in the game as a playable character.
Well, you know what? I mean, you never can tell. Yeah, I'd love to be in there as a playable character. We get asked that thousands of times every year. That would be really cool. And you never know, because I think it was last year, of course now a year before last when we actually did it, they can add stuff to the game. There's all sorts of downloadable things throughout the year that you can add to the game. But I know they called JR for some voiceover sessions, and JR was added to some parts of the game. I think if you pulled up a Steve Austin match, a Stone Cold Steve Austin match, all of a sudden it was me and JR doing the commentary. And I know JR flew to Memphis for a few sessions for that, just sort of right in the middle of the year. So you never can tell. I might get added some kind of way.
Yeah. So hopefully you are, because like I said, you're a big part of commentary and a big part of the game. But
yeah, that's the thing. I'm certainly doing a lot less than I was doing with the WWE. But yeah, I'm still here. I think I said last week I got a text message from Kevin Dunn, who's he's one of the powers that be, and said, hey, what are you doing? Maybe we can have dinner or something. We were talking about baseball. And I said, I'm just sitting around looking at my phone, waiting for it to ring. And I said, I thought that was up to you as far as what I'm. And it was like almost an afterthought. He said, oh, yeah, you're right. I'll fix that. So now, and then I get a call that I'm going to be doing the panel pre-show or the pre-show panel for the upcoming pay-per-view Battleground. And then I'm going to be doing Talking Smack after the Battleground pay-per-view.
There you go.
So you know what? Maybe you just have to call them up and say, "Hey, did you forget about me? I'm still here."
Well, that's good. You're going to be at Battleground.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited about it. And Talking Smack, that show, that show gets a lot of views and a lot of attention. So I'm looking forward to seeing Renee Young and doing a little smack talk there.
Is that now really quick before we move on to our topic for today's show? People always want to know, is Talking Smack one of these scripted shows where, these guys, obviously everybody's in character in there, whatever they're going to talk about. But are they given a script or points to talk about, or they just go on and shoot the shit? Well, I'm sorry, shoot the shoot. Because it seems
Can't
like
say that. It's not in a restaurant. What's the matter with you?
But it seems like it's more relaxed. These guys aren't cutting promos or just talking, as who they are. It just seems it's entertaining to watch.
Yeah, and you're right. That's the fun about it, and that's the why it is so entertaining. Is because you have absolutely no script. It goes on the air live as soon as the pay-per-view is over, and I guess the reason you can't have a script for it is because they don't know what has just taken place. And so the superstars are just they'll pick out one or two or three or four and just kind of run them right in there after their match, and it's all off the cuff, and it's all like you said, live, and they're talking about things that have just happened, and so it's a totally unscripted, and that's what I like about it.
One promo really quick is the Miz and Daniel Bryan going at it. I think it was last year, and I texted Mike, Miz, and I was like, don't tell me if that was like scripted or not. But I have to tell you, if that's off the cuff, that's some great acting, because that seemed real. It seemed relaxed.
Well, I mean, he don't have to tell you. I can tell you that was totally off the cuff. That was totally ad-libbed or real, if you want to call it that. Yeah, and that's what's cool about it. And I just saw one. I guess it was a Raw talk, because Miz is on Raw now, right?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. So it was a Raw talk that Miz just did, I guess, maybe last week. That was awesome as well. I mean, where he had just had his match with Dean Ambrose, and of course everybody knows that Dean Ambrose and Renee Young are a couple, and so and then Renee Young was having to interview the Miz about his win over Dean Ambrose, and it was just it was so good. It was because you could tell that the Miz was making Renee Young uncomfortable, and she was really trying to avoid the topic of the fact that her and Dean are an item, and Miz was just needling her with it. Miz is, he is just, to me, he's just the best thing going in the WWE right now. I really enjoy what he's doing.
I totally agree. I think he's the MVP of the WWE for the last year and a half, just with what he's been doing on the mic and also in the ring. His spots have been, Miz TV has been entertaining. Talking Smack, Raw Talk. He's just been, just amazing when it comes to entertaining. But did you watch Great Balls of Fire?
Well, first of all, as I said, I haven't watched the entire pay-per-view yet because I was at the Cleveland Indians game, and you sent out a tweet and you said, do you think I jinxed it by being there? And obviously I did. They had won 3 straight, and then, of course, when I go, Corey Kluber, their ace pitching, and they get beat 5-3. But so I haven't got a chance to watch Great Balls of Fire yet. But the one thing you said, as we know, Jerry Lee Lewis's son was there. But man, I was just so hoping. How cool would that have been to have Jerry Lee Lewis actually there and perform the song "Great Balls of Fire"? I mean, and I know Jerry Lee's 84 years old, but listen, I mean, he still goes out, from time to time. If the money's right, he'll go out and perform. And he just still does such an amazing job, and that's such an iconic song. And of course WWE must think so as well, to use it as a name for the pay-per-view. But gosh, how cool would that have been to have him sit there, sing that song, and then they could have had it to pyrotechnic people where the top of his piano catches on fire at the end, which he's done before in the past, of course. But that's what I was really hoping for. Of course, we didn't get that, but I understand the pay-per-view was good. I've read a lot of reviews and a lot of people talking about it on Twitter. And one of the things that I read, and I'm really looking forward to going back and watching the match. I was thinking that maybe more would have been done with Brock Lesnar and Samoa Joe. Now, you said it was a really good match, right?
Yeah, I enjoyed the match. I enjoyed the finish.
Well, and then, we all know, it was just apparently Brock Lesnar gave Samoa Joe an F5 and just pinned him clean. No controversy, or really basically it's almost like whenever we do something like that, it's almost like saying, well, that's it. We're moving on. That was just a clean finish. And I was really thinking that maybe Samoa Joe and Brock Lesnar could be something that could be carried on. But I really believe that, and then once again, Glenn, when we talk about this, I'm not speaking for the WWE by any means. I'm just saying my own thoughts, and they could be polar opposite from what the WWE creative people are thinking, and a lot of times they are. But I was thinking that before the Monster, before Braun Strowman kind of got injured, I was thinking that they were giving him the big buildup to be a monster on the same level as Brock Lesnar, and to face Brock Lesnar, to go against him. And I think that is just my thinking. I think that's still the plan. So I think that the next guy to go against Brock Lesnar is probably going to be, Braun Strowman. But what did you think of Strowman's match at Great Balls of Fire?
Oh, I enjoyed the ambulance match. It's a gimmick match. Not much you can do other than get the guy in the ambulance. But the finish, when Reigns drove the ambulance in the back and backed it up against the trailer, and Strowman's trapped inside, and Kurt Angle came out to see how Strowman. They had to use the jaws of life to get Strowman out of the ambulance, and it's kind of surprising. I know, WWE frowns upon any kind of blood on their programming, and if a guy gets cut, obviously people used to blade, back in the day, and get some juice and get some color. But now that they frown.
Oh, listen to Glenn, the big insider.
And now that you guys can't do that, obviously, you probably get in trouble if you do that nowadays. But if a guy,
that's like unheard of these days.
Yeah, but if a guy, gets busted open, legit, they try to stop the match. The ref puts his gloves on. They get a towel. They try to stop the bleeding the best they can. But Strowman, came out all bloody. I know this was a pre-produced, it was a pre-produced piece. They do this, they tape the stuff during the day. It's not live, but he was.
What are you doing? What are you doing? Come on. Why are you trying to be a spoiler here? What are you doing?
I mean, people know. We're not having like 10-year-olds listen to the podcast. I mean, these are grown-ass people listening to the show. They know the difference, right?
I know. I do know some 10-year-olds that listen to this podcast. What are you going to be telling them? The Easter Bunny's not real next or something? What's the matter with you?
Santa Claus isn't real either.
Hey. Well, I'll tell you what, you'll get I live on St. Nick Drive here in Memphis, so don't even go there. And especially don't go there with Mick Foley. He will punch you right out.
Well, don't tell people where you live. You're giving away your address.
Oh. Everybody knows where I live.
That's true. But I'm saying, it was a good, Strowman all bloody, which kind of surprised me, with him all, bloody up. And, there was a cool segment where there was this white coach, maybe Triple H's or somebody's, but, the white coach trailer, and Strowman had his hand was all bloody, and he's walking in the back, all stumbling, and he wipes his hand across the trailer. It looked like a horror movie from the handprint that's streaming across the white trailer. That was a pretty cool scene. But, I enjoyed the pay-per-view as a whole, and I thought it was one of the better pay-per-views of the year so far.
Well, good. I'm looking forward to going back and seeing that. And, yeah, I think that the issue with the blood, of course, WWE made that determination at some point in time to move forward as more of a family-friendly form of entertainment. And, seeing somebody bloodied up, which of course can happen anytime you're in a fight. I mean, my gosh, and it's funny, as hearing me and even hearing myself say this from the profession that I've been in all these years. When we used to be in some of the bloodiest matches, and you can look at my forehead and see that I've been in hundreds and hundreds of, maybe even thousands of bloody matches in my career, and never thought a thing about it. But now, if I watch a UFC fight or an MMA fight, and these guys bust each other open, I sort of creeped out about it. I just don't I don't like seeing that these guys get all bloodied up and everything. And I think sort of that, and I really believe that's why WWE moved away from that. But at times, didn't Matt Hardy get busted the other night and need 9 stitches?
Yeah, that was during the tag team Iron Man match. Yeah, he got busted open.
I mean, these guys get grief. This is a contact sport, and these guys get they get busted open a lot of times, whether they mean to or not. And so I think the fans are savvy enough to realize that that's when you see that, it wasn't something that they intended for you to see, especially in the Matt Hardy situation. But with what you're talking about with Braun Strowman, I think that was done just for dramatic purposes. I mean, like you said, it was an eye opener, and it was shocking because it's not done very often, and I think that's the WWE is very smart in using that very selectively.
Yeah, like cage matches, where your head is getting blasted against the cage. I mean,
yeah, it's almost especially and that may be one of the reasons that they're not seen as frequently. But to me, it was always kind of dumb to have a cage match and not see somebody get bloodied bloodied a little bit, because or if you're not going to have that, you shouldn't run somebody's head into a cage, because in real life anybody knows that you run somebody's head into something steel, as JR used to say, steel wins. And so but I mean, hey, it's what WWE is all about, and that's what's made them where they are today. That the top in the business. They're family friendly entertainment.
You talk about watching UFC and cringe and at certain aspects. The one thing that makes me cringe is when I watch the old network on the network and watch old Raws and old pay-per-views, and the unprotected chair shots that it would echo when guys would take a chair shot. Man, that I know you guys don't do headshots anymore with chair shots, but geez, some of those chair shots back in the day.
I used to, like, whenever I get hit in the head with a chair, I used to hate to see guys put their hands up and block the chair shots. Yeah, I would never block a chair shot. I'd just say, hit me.
But I'm saying some of those chair shots were violent, man. I mean, I'm sure it had long-term effects. You get a concussion from that. I mean, those chairs, there's no give.
Well, you know what? I can honestly say, like, I've been doing this as long as anybody, for 46 years, night in and night out of matches, and hundreds probably of chair shots. And I can honestly say I've never had a concussion. So I just think that's, I don't think it's any certain thing in the business that causes concussions. I just think that, some people are more prone to them than others. And it's like, some people don't smoke and they get lung cancer, and some people smoke all their lives and don't get lung cancer. So, I think I think that the concussion thing is just I don't know. I don't subscribe to that theory that those things cause long-term damage. I mean, my memory. I was just going to ask you. Did we talk last week about being on the Fox News network?
We talked about that, King. Yeah. So,
okay. See that last chair shot made me not remember that.
Concussions aren't a big deal, Glenn. About last week.
What is your last name?
Yeah. Who are you again? What are you doing here? Right. But some of those shots were just, they would echo through the arena. But no headshots for chairs anymore. No cutting yourself. No blood anymore. And what else? No power drivers anymore. Can't do any power drivers anymore. There goes your finisher.
There was my main finisher. You're right.
So you can't do. Well, I think CM Punk and John Cena did a power driver a few years ago during a match. CM Punk
got in big trouble for it. Yeah. I thought at the time, if there's one person in this business that can't get in trouble, it's John Cena. But I was wrong, because he got in huge trouble. I mean, that's just that's just one of the rules.
But what can they do? He's John Cena. Slap on the wrist. Don't do it again. They're going to take him off TV.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I just know that. What can they do? But I just know that Vince himself was really, really upset, and that John realized that he had made a mistake after he did that, and you just don't go, you just don't go against one of the main rules in the company.
Yeah, well, I think CM Punk gave Cena the pile driver, but Cena was involved in the match. I'm sure he knew about it. Obviously, these two guys were playing the match. So, but yeah, a lot of insider terms were spitting out here on the show today.
Yeah, whatever.
Sorry, people who were trying to taking the curtain away from you, but we apologize. Let's get into this week's topic. And this week's topic, we tease
this
about.
This show's over. What do you mean, just get into this week's topic? How long have we been doing this now?
Well, we're about, 33 minutes in. We gotta get this thing going.
We haven't even got into this week's topic yet.
Maybe we'll
and you haven't even finished your sweet potato waffle fries. And that's the first time I've ever noticed you not having at least 2 orders of those.
You know what we'll do? We'll do the first half of this topic, and then we'll finish the second half next week. How about we do that?
Oh, I don't care. Whatever.
Well,
we can talk about it.
You're a busy man. I know, King. People are waiting for you.
I do. I really have to. I do commercials for King Cotton Ford up in Covington, Tennessee. Great dealership. And anybody that's listening out there, you need a car. You need to go to King Cotton. Well, actually, it's King Cotton Autoplex because they have Ford, they have GMCs, and just any car. King Cotton in Covington, Tennessee is where you want to go. I got to do a commercial for them when I leave here with you. I got to go do a commercial for them. Then I also got to do a commercial on Kicks 106 Radio. Look, I got my phone right here, and they just sent me this for the spot that I got to do. And so we might as well do it here on my podcast for free. I won't even have to pay for this. It's like this. It's Party Like Country Royalty Thursday night after Kicks on Beale at my bar, King Jerry Lawler's Hall of Fame Bar and Grill on Beale Street. Memphis' own Nick Garrison will be throwing down on my stage with songs from his new album, Doing Good. You get drink and fireball specials, plus the coldest beer on Beale. You don't want to miss it. That's this Thursday night at King Jerry Lawler's Hall of Fame Bar and Grill on Beale Street. So I got to go do that commercial, too, for Kicks 106, since we just did it here.
Well, King, you just did a free commercial. You figured you can, kick me back some meat here. So, give me home some brisket. Can I take back some brisket back to Cleveland?
I can't even do a free commercial on my own podcast. I got to buy your dinner again for that.
Just throw in
that's all you're making off the podcast, Glenn. Then okay, I'll do that for you.
All right. So what we're going to do is the first part of our topic for this week, and that is Jerry Lawler leaving WWE, WWF at the time, and back in 2001 with your wife at the time, the Cat. And you talked about the Cat a lot in your book, in shoot interviews, general interviews. So we're not going to get in depth about the Cat, but I'm more curious about you leaving WWE and doing research on what was going on, all these internet articles at the time. And there seems to be all these conspiracy theories on what really happened, behind the scenes with you and the Cat and WWE at the time. So I have like 3 or 4 of these conspiracy theories, and we're going to get the final verdict. You're going to either debunk these or confirm these. And then we'll talk about next week. We're going to talk about the XWF in depth, about you going there with Tony Schiavone as commentary team, Mean Gene. You had Hulk there. You had Sable. And then we'll wrap it up next week with you returning to WWF and then being there for the next, that was 16 years ago. So you've been there for 16 years since returning with no hiccups whatsoever. So let's get into it. So,
well, there wasn't a hiccup, but there was a cardiac arrest in there where I was gone for a little while. I died.
That's not your fault, though.
And listen, we just talked about how bad my memory is, and now we're going to go back to talking about something in 2001. Wow.
16 years ago. I was just turning 18 when you were...
okay, you don't have to rub it in about how young you are.
I was just turning 18. And, Jerry, I was, obviously a huge fan. Obviously, being teenagers, I didn't know about the Jerry Lawler from the Memphis days. I knew Jerry Lawler from,
Look at this. We're talking about what happened when you remember when you were 18. And I just got this text message from my friend that works at the Commercial Appeal, which is our local Memphis newspaper here, Danny Bowen. And I guess they're doing an article. He's asking me, do you remember where you were the night Elvis died?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I was not even thought of at the time.
Yeah, that was 1977. Where was I?
My parents were not even together yet.
Man, I do not remember. That's something, You know what? I do remember the night that I had just wrestled in Memphis at the Mid-South Coliseum, and got in my car and we're driving back to Nashville. This was when I was still living in Nashville, and it came across the radio that John Lennon had been shot and killed. Oh, wow. And I do remember that. I was on like I-40 and I just started crying. It was just that was one of those things that, to me, I'll never forget where I was when I heard that news. But gosh, I cannot remember where I was the night Elvis died. 1977. I was still living in Hendersonville.
Well, this show has gone off the rails.
I'm sorry. We have really gone off the rails.
You're getting barbecue sauce all over your phone now.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to 2001.
Okay.
When, what do you want to start with? Why I left, or how I left, or what?
Yeah. I mean, we'll get to the story of what really happened, but I have some conspiracy theories. There's a lot of, at the time you were doing a lot of interviews, and you were saying, it's coming from
after I left, I was doing interviews.
Right. Yeah. People were asking you why you left, and you didn't know what was going on at the time. So,
well, maybe for people that don't know and don't remember where they were when I left the WWE in 2000, maybe you should explain that everything was going good. I had been there since 1993, I think. And JR and I were the voice of the WWE. We were the main guys on Monday Night Raw, doing the show every single Monday night. And all of a sudden, one day out of the blue, we were, it was like midday. Everybody was there getting ready for their matches that night, getting ready to do Raw Live. And JR called me into his office and said, Jerry, I just got a message from Vince, and man, I don't know what to do about it. I don't know what to do. And I said, what is it? What's the problem? And he said, well, I just got word from Vince they want to give Stacy, which was my wife at the time, and she was working there in the WWE as the Cat. He said they want to give her release, and he said I just can't tell her, because JR and I and Stacy, we were close. We traveled together all the time there and everything, and so he said can you tell her? And I sort of thought it was a joke. I said, what you mean? You mean you just got word from Vince that they're firing Stacy, and you want me to tell her? And he said, man, I just don't have the heart to tell her. And so I said, well, can I go talk to Vince? And he said, yeah, I wish you would. So I went down to Vince's office, knocked on the door, and I'm still thinking maybe this is a rib, maybe it's a joke or something, And so Vince said, King, come on in. And so I told Vince, I said, hey, JR just called me in his office and said that you guys are giving Stacy her release. And he said, yeah. He said, not my decision. And I said, not your decision? Well, whose decision is it? And he said, I guess creatives or talent relations. And I said, well, I'm thinking in my mind, I didn't say this, I'm thinking, well, JR is the head of talent relations, and he just told me that it was a surprise to him, so I'm thinking maybe I didn't know what to think. And so I said, well, what's the reason? What did she do? What's the problem? And Vince said, I really don't know. So I'm just confused. I didn't know what to do. And so the first thing that popped into my mind was I sure didn't want her to lose her job, and I didn't want to go tell her that she had lost her job. So I quickly concocted what I thought would work. I'm thinking, well, JR and I are the established voices of the WWE. They're certainly not going to, Stacy was just, a minor player at the time on the roster. And I said, well, maybe if I stick up for her and, pull a little power play here, that they'll keep her on and rather than losing me and her. So I told Vince, I said, well, I said, if I got to go tell her that she's fired and she's got to leave, Vince, I'm just going to have to go with her. And, I immediately thought that Vince is going to say, yeah, King, well, let's give this a second thought. Let's take a look, hang on. Let's look at what's going on here. But that's not what happened. Instead, when I said, Vince, if she's got to go, I'm just have to leave with her. Vince just, so matter-of-factly, just so casually, just turned to me and stuck his hand out and said, well, King, we really appreciate everything you've done for us.
Wow.
And I was dumbfounded. I reached out and I shook his hand, and no more was said. I didn't say another word. He didn't either. And I just turned and walked out of his office. And I went to the locker room and I called Stacy out and I said, well, we've both just been fired.
Wow.
And she said, what? And then I told her exactly what happened. And, we went and, we got our stuff and I told JR what happened and he couldn't believe it. And I think I told somebody this, I kept thinking, somewhere as we're walking out to our rental car, somebody's going to jump out and go, ha, 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 we got you. And this is all going to be a big rib or whatever. But no, that wasn't the case. We went out and got in the car and came home and, we were just both out of the WWE.
Wow. That's nuts. And that was, obviously, well, my age, watching Raw, the Attitude Era religiously, and then the King is not on commentary. Obviously, I didn't know what was going on. I just, the King wasn't on commentary. And I'm sure a lot of people were very shocked that transpired. And, you talked about even after the ratings went down after that, 25%, the following when you left WWE. And, I'm sure there was other reasons, involved with people stopped watching. But, the King and JR, the commentary team of the last, 3 or 4 years of the Attitude Era, Michael Cole sprinkled in, that commentary team is broken up. It was very, very weird, having no King on commentary, especially in the thick of the Attitude Era.
Yeah, I mean, we were at the time the voice of the WWE. You didn't turn on and watch a WWE show that you didn't hear JR and the King together on. So it was I don't know. And looking back, I'm sure that wasn't a huge or the only reason that the ratings went down at that time. But they did go down. And there was kind of a revolt from some of the fans, at least some of my fans that couldn't understand what happened either. That all of a sudden I just wasn't there. And then I did go out and publicly try to explain to a lot of people. I just told them the truth. I just told them, I don't know what happened. I just they didn't give us a reason, and we're just not there anymore. And so I think at one time, one of the things that created quite a stir was because Vince had told me, I think it was creative that was behind this. So then I went on, I think it was my website or whatever, and I said, everybody's asking me why I'm not in the WWE anymore. I said, here's the people you should ask, because all I was told is that it was creative. So here's how you can get in touch with these people. And I think I went on and I gave several of the, the main writers, I think I gave their personal information out online where the people could actually contact them. They were immediately barraged with, messages from incensed fans.
Could you imagine if someone now, was just, left the WWE, future endeavored, and they went on Twitter and posted all the writers' cell phone numbers and emails?
Yeah. I don't think I gave out cell phone numbers, did I?
I think at the time,
I think it was just their email.
Yeah, I think it was emails and phone numbers. I think the phone number you gave out was like the corporate line, which anybody can look up. And get.
Well, I might have given out the line.
But still, personal emails, man. That's cold blooded.
Well, I thought being fired out of the blue was cold blooded too. But
yeah. So here are some conspiracy theories and what happened, and then after we get done with conspiracy theories, you're gonna give your take. It's been 16 years. Obviously, you know what transpired, but there's a lot of conspiracy theories, and here we go. The first one is your replacement, Paul Heyman. He took your spot after you left, and obviously Heyman and JR, back in WCW, they did commentary together, so they have a rapport. They know each other, obviously. But someone, the powers that be wanted Paul Heyman in your seat, so they knew if they fired the cat that you would leave, hence getting Paul Heyman. Is that, you can probably debunk that, right?
Yeah, no, I don't think that was the case at all. But now, you say 16 years later, I obviously know the reason. Honest to God, 16 years later, I still do not know the reason that Stacy was fired. I do know.
You have a good idea, though. You have a sense of why, though, right?
Well, no. All I have are conspiracy theories as well. But I don't think the one that you just mentioned. I don't think that was one of them at all.
Here's another one. Here's another one for you. You ready?
Okay. Yeah.
NBC was not happy with your XFL commentary, and someone put some pressure on WWE, and they knew getting rid of the cat would get rid of you. That one sounds ridiculous.
Yeah, that is ridiculous. No, nobody at NBC had anything to do with, with any of the things that went on at the WWE. It was, as a matter of fact, it was quite the opposite. The WWE had all the control basically over what went on with the XFL. And JR and I, we were like, I don't know what you want to call it, maybe the B team as far as the XFL commentators went. We weren't, I don't even know if we ever actually did a game on NBC. I think that Jesse Ventura and,
Matt Van Sturgeon.
Yeah, I think those guys did all the actual NBC games, and JR and I, we did games that were the alternate games, in case something went wrong with an NBC broadcast, which I think one time, it did. We did, we did get put on there. But no, there was never, trust me, if something like that happened, if there was ever a problem with anybody's commentary, especially in the WWE or on NBC with the XFL, they come to you directly and say, hey, we got a little problem with this and we want it fixed immediately. There's nobody shy, in the TV department about telling somebody if they got a problem with your commentary. So that was not it. And another thing that sort of debunks all of those theories is that nobody expected me to quit because Stacey got fired.
Yeah.
I mean, that was just unheard of. As a matter of fact, on my DVD, that was one of the things that Vince mentioned when he was talking about me, was that he had a lot of respect for me and the fact of the loyalty that I showed to, Stacey by giving up my career, basically, for her. And so, but that was because it was just an unheard of do. Nobody expected that. So I don't believe any of those theories that say they fired her to make me quit.
I got two more conspiracy theories.
Okay.
There was one that obviously the cat had a little program with China, being the mini China, so to speak, and the cat was going to be in Playboy. China got jealous, and China had the ear of the right people, and that's why she wanted to get rid of the cat, and which led to you leaving as well.
Well, now see that one. That theory just involves the cat. That doesn't really involve me. But I still don't believe that because, this was at a point in time when Kat and China, or Stacey and China, were really, really good friends. They were really close. We traveled together, as a matter of fact, a lot. I remember, driving our rental car, and it would be, me driving, Stacey in the front seat, China and Triple H in the back seat. We traveled a lot of road trips between Raw and SmackDown, and that's the thing, the four of us together. And of course, everybody knows that China and Triple H were at one time a couple. But the part about, I never heard, and I know Stacey never heard anything about Stacey being in Playboy. That was not ever mentioned. And of course, China had been in Playboy, and they were at this time using some of the other WWE girls in Playboy. But never, a couple of times, Stacey and I went to the Playboy Mansion, met Hugh Hefner, but those were only times when they had me there doing a photo shoot or whatever with Hugh Hefner. But I don't believe that. I don't believe that theory either, because I certainly would have known if they had, intended, and Stacey would have known if they had intended for her to be in Playboy, and that just wasn't the case.
Another one, the last one that I have for you, a person in the Memphis area who was involved with WWE development and had the ear of the likes of Bruce Pritchard and Kevin Kelly, who were behind the scenes in WWE. He was kind of not jealous, but upset that he lost a TV deal, and he was trying very, very hard to get rid of you and Stacy, and that's another conspiracy theory.
Yeah, no, I don't believe. I really feel in my heart that this had nothing to do with getting rid of me.
Yeah.
I think everybody was perfectly happy with me and the job that JR and I were doing. I think that that I just pulled the power play at the last second with Vince, and Vince wasn't. That's just the kind of guy Vince is. He wasn't going to let anybody pull a power play with him. I mean, another guy that I remember that I'm sure there's been tons over the years that have tried to pull power plays with Vince, and that's one of the things that I'm sure he has to put his foot down on. I know Jeff Jarrett. That was the reason Jeff left the WWE. He tried to pull a power play and tried to hold Vince up for more money or something on the night that he was featured in a pay-per-view, and Vince just doesn't he doesn't react well to power plays, and so that me leaving came about because of my thought that would be the way to keep Stacy on. I mean, the whole deal of Stacy leaving, I still to this day don't know what that was all about, and it could be just something as simple as what Vince said. I did hear later on that some of the people in creative said that she was hard to work with backstage, and by that means, when they come to you and say, hey, tonight you're at this time, Stacy was involved in this program, the Right to Censor group, and with Ivory and all of these different other people, and it may have been something as simple as the creative staff sit around all week and they have meetings and things and think of something that they want these guys to do on Monday night. And then when you get there on Monday, they may have gone to Stacy and says, hey, here's what we want you to do with Ivory. And it could have been something simple as, she may not have thought it was a good idea, which really is not her place to do. And I'm just saying this could have happened. But if she just voiced, displeasure with something they want her to do, all of a sudden to the creative, this person's hard to work with because they expect you to, they've gone through meetings and got this approved and all of this stuff that they want you to do all week long. And so when you show up on Monday and they tell you what you're going to do on the show, they don't expect any feedback, really. They just say, okay, they want you to say, okay, hey, that's a great idea. Let's go do it. But that's not to say that that's the way it always happens. And it could have been that Stacy just, didn't want to go along with something that they had planned, and she voiced her displeasure, and the word might have come to Vince, man, she's hard to work with, and boom, that's how easy it is to get let go.
It was that was nuts, and this was at the time. Well, you missed when you were gone for those 9 months. You missed, Vince buying WCW and that whole Raw that happened here in Cleveland, where Vince and Shane were going to go back at it, and then you missed the SmackDown after 9/11 in 2001 as well. You weren't with the company for that emotional show, so you missed two real big shows when you were gone. But my question for you, WCW was still around when you left. Did WCW contact you to go and do Nitro, the following night or anything like that?
Not that I can remember.
No.
I don't think that was the situation. I may have gotten a call or two or something like that. But honestly, I really sort of expected, even though I was shocked with the decision to just let me walk the night, somehow in my mind, I just kept thinking, hey, this'll work itself out. It'll just be a matter of a few days or a few weeks or whatever, and they'll call me back and say, hey, we thought about this. Let's smooth things over. Let's get this all worked out, and you guys come back. But that wasn't the case. It went on and on. But some good things for me came out of it. I mean, Stacy and I went and we started doing. I didn't even realize at that time how many other independent shows were going on around the country. I was, and people that are in the WWE, you're so focused on, what all that entails and all the different shows that the WWE is doing. And that was an eye opener to me that there was so much other opportunities out there. And that's where I met, of course, Michael Lombardi, who started booking me on a lot of shows up in the Northeast, and he has a Northeast Wrestling Company, and and that turned into a great relationship. That's the reason I was in Cleveland this past Sunday, because on Saturday night, the night before, I still work independent shows for Michael that I met him back in 2001 when that few weeks or that short period of time I was away from the WWE. But I mean, Michael still goes out and produces all these great shows. We just did one in Youngstown, Ohio, or Niles, Ohio, at the Scrapper Baseball Stadium, which is a minor league affiliate of the Cleveland Indians. They had the ring set up out on the field. They had a great crowd. Had me there wrestling, and had
Mick Foley.
Mick Foley was there. Jimmy Hart was there, and Ryback was there, and gosh, just he puts together these great cards, and he did back then. I mean, all of a sudden, I was a really red hot commodity in the WWE, and for me then to all of a sudden start appearing on these independent shows, we drew some great crowds for Michael and for all of the independent promoters that we worked for, and really, was doing well financially too.
Here's another question with that time period. The Jarretts were. TNA didn't come to fruition until the 2002, but they were talking about it. I'm sure they were talking. The Jarretts were talking about starting TNA during the time that you were gone, and obviously you have a long history with the Jarrett family. Did they ever come to you and say, "Hey, we're possibly going to start this promotion. We'd love to have you on board since we're not with WWF anymore"?
Well, that of course came about with the Jeff Jarrett power play that I mentioned a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
Jeff kind of held up Vince, and boom, then Jeff got cut from the WWE, and he was on the outs right then, and then Jeff and his dad, Jerry, who was my business partner for over 20 years, they came up with the idea, let's start our own wrestling company, because Jared had made a lot of money with the Memphis Wrestling Company, and then he had gone into a real successful business venture where years ago when we first started doing the Memphis wrestling thing got really big. Jerry bought 100 acres of land right in the middle of prime real estate, right in the middle of Hendersonville, Tennessee, which at the time was where all the country music stars lived. Jerry bought the house that right next door. His next door neighbor was Johnny Cash. He bought the house that what's the country singer? George Jones. He bought the house that George Jones and Tammy Wynette lived in. And so all the country music stars lived in Hendersonville, Tennessee. I lived in Hendersonville, and I lived right like 4 houses down was Conway Twitty, and all of these stars lived there. Jerry bought, and it's no telling what it cost then, but he bought 100 acres right in the middle, built a big house right in the middle. And then later on in the TNA time coming about, Jerry had sold off that 100 acres and started building houses on it. So he had a construction company that was going really well, and he was making a whole lot of money off that. So Jerry and Jeff decided, we're going to start up our own wrestling company that will rival the WWE. We're going to go in competition with Vince McMahon, and that's this TNA thing, and that's how that got started. Now, the only thing I can remember is at one time finally having a conversation with Jerry on the phone, and it wasn't about me coming to work for them. It was about the fact that he just basically told me, he said, "Man, I have sunk everything that Jeff and I own into this business, and I am afraid that it's about to go under." And of course, I had back in 1997, I had found a couple of guys that were investors, so to speak, that came and wound up buying the Memphis USWA company from Jerry Jarrett and I, and for a couple of $1 million. And so Jerry contacted me and said, "Man, if I don't come up with some more money, this TNA project and Jeff and I both financially are going to go under." And he was asking me, did I know anybody like those guys that I had found for the USWA? Did I know anybody that might be willing to jump in and help him out with this, with the TNA company? And I honestly didn't. I had I said, I'll put some feelers out and I'll see if anybody's interested. But I didn't have any luck. And I swear it was just like maybe 2 weeks after that. Jerry didn't call me back, but I just heard like 2 weeks after that is when they hooked up with Dixie Carter, and she and her dad or family or whatever became, the major backers for TNA. So that's, I was never asked to join TNA or anything at the time. I think when that happened, I was already back with the WWE.
Yeah, you went back in November, and like I said, we're going to talk about that next week, and also the XWF. You did 10 episodes, 10 shows with Tony Schiavone. He was doing play-by-play. You were doing color, so you had like almost like an Attitude Era dream team of commentary with Schiavone, the voice of WCW at the time, and you being with WWF. Combined for the commentary team. But before we wrap it up and get to closing remarks,
and before we go back into that, it's funny, and I'll talk a little more about this next week. But when I got the call to come back to the WWE, when the call actually came, and somebody on the other end said these words, which was what I was waiting for, King, we want you to come back. I mean, that's all I was waiting to hear, But when I got that call, I was actually in your hometown of Cleveland, Ohio.
Oh wow!
I was doing a big sports card show at what's the big convention center up there near the airport?
The IX Center.
At the IX Center.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget. I mean, it was I was like a big mark myself. I'm looking at all of these big sports superstars. Mickey Mantle was there. Willie Mays was there. All of these. Oh gosh! All I was doing was going around having my picture made with everybody. I was so excited, and then I was, of course, signing autographs. But the funny thing, I was in a booth, and my table was right next to the last remaining. And I got my picture and everything. I can't remember what his name was now. I got the framed picture hanging upstairs in my my autograph room. But I was next to the last living Munchkin from the Wizard of Oz movie. It was so crazy, but anyway, and then all of a sudden I get this call on my phone from the WWE, and I'll never forget another thing about that. This was I learned so much cool stuff at the IX Center. I had some fan come up to me, and he said, King, what would you have done if this just happened to you? Now, like I said, Mickey Mantle was signing. Willie Mays was signing, and Willie Mays, I had heard a few stories about Willie Mays not being very fan-friendly, right? Well, everybody else, you could just walk up to their table and get your merchandise signed or an autograph or picture or whatever. But Willie Mays had two tables. He had a table that he was sitting at, and then there was a space between that and then like maybe of 10 or 15 feet. And then there was another table that two of his associates, two women, were working that table. And you had to bring your item and give it to one of these ladies, and then tell them what you wanted, and then they would take it back and have Willie Mays sign it, and he would give it back to them, and they would bring it back to you. So you never got any personal contact with Willie Mays, right? He didn't. He was just that fan unfriendly. And so some guy comes up to me, I'll never forget this, and he says, "What would you have done if this just happened to you?" And I said, "What?" And he shows me this baseball, and he said, I had this baseball signed by Mickey Mantle, and I went to Willie Mays' table, and I asked Willie Mays to sign it as well. And the lady took the baseball, took it back to Willie Mays. He signed it and took it back and handed it to the guy. And Willie Mays had wrote his autograph right over Mickey Mantle's.
Jeez.
Right. And I just said, oh, my gosh, man, I might have taken that baseball and seen if I could bean him. I might have tried to hit him right between the eyes with it. But anyway, that was just one of the little things that happened at that. And then, like, right after that, I got the phone call from the WWE saying, King, we want you to come back.
And we'll talk about that next week. But speaking of TNA, has TNA ever contacted you about going there? All the times where, you renew your contract every year. We talked about in the show, every year you renew your contract. But has TNA ever called you or fielded you out? Hey, you'd like to come here to do commentary or wrestle?
Well, there's just this last time back in, I guess my contract was up in January, and that was when we talked about this before. In January they told me man, King, we really just don't have anything else for you right now. And so I thought, I was being released, and they said, hey, if you can think of anything, call us back. But right now we don't have anything. So I'm just kind of sitting at home. I'm still getting paid. I'm still under contract. This was like in December, and so. But then, as everybody knows, before my contract was actually out, they called me back and we worked out something. We worked out another contract. So I was never not under contract with WWE, but there was a lot of speculation that I was gone from the company. A lot of fans when I was taken off the air off of SmackDown. So a lot of people thought that I was gone, but I was never really not under contract to WWE, re-signed it. But during that time, I did get a call from Jeff Jarrett, and this was, Jeff was still sort of doing the GF Global Force Wrestling,
right?
But we all knew that he was always sort of still involved with TNA, and now I think they've really gotten, I guess completely back together, where Jeff is one of the main guys there at TNA again. But I did get a call from Jeff just saying, hey, we were just wondering if you re-signed with the WWE or not. And it was one of those things where I got right back to him and said, yeah, I did already re-sign with him. And he said, okay, thanks. And that was it. It was as simple as that, And so I'm sure had I not signed, that probably the door would have been open there to do something.
What's interesting? The timing of that was, they were Impact Wrestling was really pushing JR, like what JR's events where he does like his kind of not stand up, but he has like events. People could come out and he tells stories and whatnot. They were really pushing in the Orlando area, JR's events. And JR was a free agent. Man, imagine that. Imagine if you weren't with WWE and you possibly went to TNA and they brought JR and get the band back together.
Well, without a doubt. I mean, I'm sure that's what was in their minds, and it was possibly in the mind of JR as well, because I spoke to JR frequently during that time when I told JR that I thought I was being released, and that that they didn't have anything else for me, and it was funny. JR said, "Oh, don't worry, King. They'll offer you," and I forget what he said was. I think he's called it. They'll offer you some keep you off the street money. And I said, what do you mean keep you off the street money? He said, well, that's just basically a contract to keep you from going anywhere else.
Yeah. And now JR's signed for 2 years with WWE.
And keep you off the street money.
Yeah.
He and I both now are getting keep you off the street money.
So I mean, obviously, Jarrett's a smart guy. So I mean, obviously, if you would have left, and then JR's a free agent, that would be a no-brainer getting you two back together for TNA. That would have caused some little shockwaves.
Oh yeah, I think it could have caused a lot of shockwaves. But you know what? I swear to you, if they had been serious, or if I had not signed back with the WWE and they contacted me about coming there and working for them, I would say I would do it under one condition.
And what's that?
Get rid of that stupid 6-sided ring.
Yeah, that I don't get that.
So stupid.
That could be a whole other show with if you want to talk about TNA and whatnot.
I mean, I understand how that came about, was just to try to be different, and there's some value to that, but man, it's proved to be not. It's different, all right, but there's a good difference and there's a bad difference, and that was a bad difference, and I think it's so stupid for them to continue on with that, because it doesn't help in any way whatsoever.
Speaking of Jarrett, really quick before we wrap it up, in the checks here, we got to go. Is Jarrett on the WWE blackball list?
I don't know if WWE has a blackball list.
I mean, guys,
by that you mean people that they would say will never hire again?
Yeah, they would never be with a company ever again. Because you talked about Jarrett, holding Vince up for I think it was like $800,000, just to make sure the IC title was dropped. I think that was the whole scenario played out. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure Vince wasn't happy. And when Vince bought WCW, you know, he said the famous line, you know, how you spell Jeff Jarrett, you know, double J, double F, God, and like, kind of like fired him on live TV. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure. I'm just asking, curious, you know, would Jeff Jarrett never be back allowed in WWF as long as Vince is living?
You know what? Jerry Jarrett and I used to say this, and I think it applies to all wrestling owners and promoters and that sort of thing. We used to say, Jerry used to say mainly, he said, I would book the devil himself if he would put asses in seats. So I don't think there is such a thing. I mean, I don't know if there is such a thing as a blackball list. Sure, people do things that will, make you fire him and make you think, oh, I'll never use this guy again. But hey, this is a business where you never say never. And I've never heard of a blackball list. And that's because I don't think that there's really such a thing. I mean, I think that there's some people that, you would think probably would never be back. I mean, if you ask me, like a CM Punk, for instance, you know, hey, you don't even mention his name because it's legal. You know, there's a lawsuit involved there, so you don't even talk about him. And I'm sure that, you know, as long as there's a lawsuit involved, he will never be back. But that's not to say never, because I sued Vince McMahon one time, and I wound up working there. And so, you know, you could, like I said, I don't think you never say never. I don't think there is any such thing as a blackball list in the WWE.
All right. Well, that's a whole. We could talk about that in other episodes. That's a lot more content than that. But next week we'll talk about the XWF. We'll talk about your return, because it was a dramatic return with Vince, you know, saying you're back, and Paul Heyman being escorted out of the arena.
It's still one of my favorite moments to see when I watch that back. I mean, Paul Heyman being drugged, kicking and screaming. I mean, that was one of, and man, kudos to all of those guys involved before I got, I mean, you know, all I had to do was just walk through the curtain. But the show they put on before I made my entrance was just so great. I mean, when it looked like, you know, Paul Heyman gets confronted by Vince, and Vince tells him, you know, he's gonna fired, and then Heyman taking off his jacket like he's gonna physically fight Vince, and then Vince taking off his, and then Heyman getting out of the ring. My favorite moment was when he goes around and he tries to attack JR, and then even JR gets the upper hand on Paul Heyman. Oh, it's so funny, man. That was a great night.
I posted a photo on our Twitter account. It said is a fan photo from that night when you returned. I'm sure the internet was a buzzing, you know, with you coming back. But they said the sign said, "Screw Heyman, we want the king," and that's what they got. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the XWF. And I know you're getting antsy over there, Jerry, because the check is already here and you got things to do. So,
I got things to do, people to see, and places to go.
We'll talk about that next week. We'll talk about a lot more in the coming episodes. And, Jerry, like I said, thank you for the lovely meal, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right, great, Glenn. See you then.
The preceding show is a Pod Avenue production.